And we're a very open family, so we talk about things that bother us and things that trouble us.
What could break a man trained to never show weakness? The sound came from behind the sitting room door. Deep, ragged sobs, the kind of cry no one in the palace had ever heard, not in decades of service, not even after Princess Diana's funeral. The footman froze. The butlers exchanged silent glances. A single housemaid clutched her rosary. It was Prince William, crying. The locked door shielded his grief, but not the echoes. The walls of Kensington Palace, long used to formal restraint, now held the sound of something shattering a prince's control. A husband's strength, a father's world. Hours earlier, the royal family had sat together in that very room. No press, no aides, just William, Catherine, and their 3 children. The princess had insisted on it. "It must come from me," she whispered. "They deserve to hear it from me." The children had sensed something was wrong. They had felt it for weeks, their mother's distant gaze, the way she lingered too long over their faces, as if memorizing them, their father's forced smiles, the way conversations stopped when they entered the room. But nothing prepared them for that moment. Not even George, 12 years old and maturing faster than anyone realized, was ready for the words his mother would say. The change had been gradual, invisible at first. Catherine began turning down events she once embraced: school openings, hospital visits, royal receptions. Too tired, she'd say, or scheduling conflict. But the palace calendar was designed with precision. Conflicts didn't just happen. Behind closed doors, William noticed her silences stretching longer. Her smiles flickered like faulty lights, brief, hollow, then gone. She was there, but somewhere else entirely. The first real alarm came during dinner with the children. Halfway through a conversation about school projects, Catherine abruptly stood up, pressing a hand to her temple. "Just a headache," she whispered, leaving her plate untouched. Minutes later, William found her upstairs on the bathroom floor, hunched over, her phone gripped like a weapon. Her eyes were red. She wiped them hastily as he entered. "Catherine," he said, kneeling. "Please. What's going on?" She shook her head. "It's nothing. Just tired. Please don't ask me now." He didn't. Not then. But he watched her more closely after that. George told his father in passing, "Mum picked me up from school again, 3 times this week. She kept asking weird questions, like if I ever wished we were just a normal family." His brow furrowed. She looked, scared, not of something outside, of herself. Charlotte, younger but equally perceptive, had seen her mother crying in the garden, hidden behind rose bushes. "She didn't know I was watching," the girl whispered to her father that night. "I think she was trying not to be seen." William's concern morphed into dread. Palace staff reported that the Princess of Wales had been spending long, solitary hours in the royal archives, a place few entered without purpose. When asked, Catherine claimed she was preparing material for a children's history project. But no one believed that was all. One aide described finding her poring over medical records, old letters, and classified correspondence marked with a red seal. One Tuesday afternoon, William came home early. The engagement in Birmingham had wrapped ahead of schedule. He walked through the side corridor of Kensington Palace, expecting to surprise his family. Instead, he froze mid-step. Catherine's voice echoed from the study. The door was cracked open. "I don't know how much longer I can keep this from them," she said into the phone. Her voice trembled. "They deserve to know. Every day I wait makes it worse. How do I tell them their lives aren't what they think they are?" William stepped back into the shadows. A part of him wanted to storm into the room, demand answers. Another part, the father, the husband, the son of a shattered princess, knew this moment wasn't for confrontation. He waited. He listened. What had she discovered that could unravel their entire reality? The next morning began like any other serial. Chatter, the clink of spoons. But Catherine's hands shook as she poured juice. Her eyes flicked to the clock. The tension in the air was thick, pressing down on all of them. After breakfast, she asked everyone to sit in the drawing room. "I have something important to share," she said, voice trembling, despite her effort. George looked uneasy. Charlotte took her brother's hand. Louis sensed the mood but didn't understand it. William sat beside his wife, but slightly apart, sensing distance, even before it was named. Catherine stood, took a deep breath, and spoke. "There's something I've kept from you. Something I should have told you a long time ago. It's about how our family began, and a secret I never meant to carry alone." For a moment after Catherine spoke, no one moved. The ticking of the antique wall clock was the only sound in the room. George sat upright, alert beyond his years. Charlotte's brow furrowed. Even Louis, usually restless, was still. William leaned forward slightly, searching his wife's eyes. "Catherine," he said gently, "whatever it is, we'll face it together." But she shook her head. This is different, William. This isn't about scandal or public duty. This is about the foundation of our family, about the very beginning. I second. She reached into the side table drawer and pulled out a thin leather folder, aged, worn at the edges. Her fingers trembled slightly as she passed it to William. These are medical records, she said. Mine, yours, and theirs. William flipped it open slowly, scanning the documents. Blood panels, IVF consultations, embryo records from a fertility clinic dated 2012. There were pages he had never seen. And then he found one, a heavily redacted file marked Experimental Protocol, Genomic Enrichment Trial, Class M, Subject Royal, Confidential, not to be disclosed without authorization. His mouth went dry. What is this? Catherine exhaled shakily. It's what I wasn't supposed to find. A classified program the palace approved behind closed doors during the transition after the Queen's Diamond Jubilee. A research partnership hidden behind royal charity donations and medical grants. It promised to increase resilience, cognitive acceleration, and public image compatibility through pre-implantation genome mapping. She paused. We thought it was standard IVF, but it wasn't. George spoke, his voice small. What does that mean for us? Catherine knelt in front of him. It means they edited your DNA before you were born. Silence slammed into the room. Charlotte gasped. They changed us? No, Catherine corrected softly. They altered you, with the hope you'd be stronger, smarter, more perfect. His hands trembled as he flipped back through the file. There were notes signed by private physicians, co-signed by officials with no names, only titles. Project Heredity Crown. One document was labeled. They played God, William muttered, nearly to himself. With our children. He looked up at Catherine, eyes wide with disbelief and pain. You knew? I found out only 2 months ago, she said. I was going through my old medical files for a charity talk. I saw inconsistencies, medications I never remembered. I filed a request to the private archives under my name. They gave me restricted access. And I found this. Louis didn't fully understand, but Charlotte did. So we're not normal? Catherine took her daughter's hand. You are more than normal. You are kind and brilliant and loved. What they did does not define who you are. It just means someone tried to control what you'd become. And that is not okay. Charlotte's voice wavered. Did Granny Elizabeth know? Catherine hesitated. I believe, she suspected, but she never approved it. This was authorized through quiet advisory channels during the Regency contingency talks. I think she was being edged out. The same year, certain powers began shifting toward Camilla. William clenched his jaw. Of course she's involved. Of course she is. That evening, after the children had been tucked into bed, still quiet, still processing, William and Catherine sat in the candlelit privacy of their private library. No aides, no advisors, just the silence between them. I feel like I don't know what's real anymore, William said, voice low and rough. My own children were used like test subjects, and no one told me, not even you. Catherine swallowed hard. I was trying to protect you, protect them. I didn't want to believe it either. But once I saw the reports, once I connected the dots, their accelerated learning, the unexplained physiological markers George's pediatrician once flagged and dismissed, it all fits. And the public? William asked. If this ever comes out, they'll call it monarchy, made designer children, she whispered. It'll look like corruption, like eugenics under the crown. They both fell silent. The implications were staggering, not just for their family, but for the monarchy itself. The next morning, a sealed envelope arrived at Kensington Palace. No stamp, no sender. Inside, a single card. We know what you found. Do not pursue it further. For the sake of the crown. William's knuckles turned white. They're watching. They've always been watching, Catherine whispered. But neither of them backed down. Because now, they had something the silent power players of the institution didn't account for. 2 parents with nothing left to lose, and a legacy worth fighting for. The message in the unmarked envelope changed everything. William held the card between 2 fingers as if it were poisonous. We know what you found. Do not pursue it further. For the sake of the crown. For a long time, he simply stared at it. Then he whispered, They're threatening my children. They think this will stop me. Catherine was white as marble. This means the conspiracy wasn't a rogue doctor. It's connected to the palace. Someone inside facilitated it. William's jaw tensed. Someone with authority. Someone with access to our medical files. Someone who knew we were vulnerable. Someone who wanted enhanced heirs. The implication hung between them like a blade. William demanded a private audience with the king. Charles agreed, but reluctantly, and at an unusually late hour. They met, not in the public audience room, but in the old red drawing room, draped in crimson velvet and silence. 2 guards stood outside, none inside. Charles looked exhausted, older than usual, his silver hair dim under the chandelier's low light. "What is this about, William? You insisted it was urgent." William didn't waste time. He tossed the leather folder onto the antique mahogany table. Pages spilled out medical records, embryo reports, the protocol file. Charles froze. What is this?" "Something you should have told us years ago." For a moment, Charles didn't speak. His eyes flicked across the documents, widening as he recognized signatures, departmental seals, clearance codes. Finally, "Where did you get these?" "Does it matter?" William snapped. "They experimented on my children, without consent, without knowledge, without humanity." Charles sank into the chair, his face crumpling. "I warned them," he whispered. "Good God, I told them this would come back to haunt us." William stared. "You knew?" Charles nodded slowly, painfully. "I knew of the program, not that your embryos were used. It was proposed during the instability after the Jubilee. Old advisors pushing the monarchy toward modernization, toward genetic security." "Genetic security?" William repeated, disgusted. Charles' voice cracked. "They said the crown needed heirs resilient to illness, to media scrutiny, to the weight of the monarchy. They argued that natural vulnerability was too dangerous for future generations." William's fists tightened. "And you let them touch my children?" Charles slammed his palm on the table. "I didn't know they chose you. I thought the program was suspended." "Then who approved it?" William demanded. Charles swallowed hard. "Look in the ledger." All. The ledger was not a book any monarch flaunted. It was a bound volume, handwritten, centuries old, containing the deepest, darkest decisions ever made in the name of the crown. Decisions never disclosed, never spoken aloud. Charles hesitated before opening the hidden cabinet behind the fireplace. "Everything the sovereign signs under the Crown Preservation Act goes in here." He unlocked it. Inside lay a single black ledger. He placed it on the table. William opened it. Pages of neat handwriting documented secret operations, covert alliances, interventions never meant for public eyes. Then he found it. Page 417. Project Heredity Crown. Initiated. 2011. Purpose: genetic stability for future heirs. Risk classification: severe. Oversight: the Consort's Advisory Circle. And under approval authority. Signed, CR. Co-signed, CPB. William's heart stopped. CR, Charles Rex. But CPB. His stomach twisted. Camilla Parker Bowles. William's voice was a whisper edged with steel. "Tell me this doesn't mean what I think it means." Charles closed his eyes. "She was part of the advisory circle. They pressured her. They manipulated her. She signed without understanding." "Don't defend her," William snapped. "She co-signed the decision to authorize genetic tampering with your future grandchildren." Charles didn't respond, because there was no defense. When William returned to Kensington, rage burned beneath his skin, but another surprise waited for him. A palace aide, a woman in her 40s with trembling hands, stood outside his private office. "Your Royal Highness," she whispered, "I need to speak with you before they come for me." William frowned. "Who?" She closed the door behind them. And then she confessed everything. She was the liaison between the clinic and the palace's medical advisory group. She had processed communications, forwarded sealed instructions, and been silenced by threats for years. "They told us it was necessary," she said. "They said the monarchy needed perfect heirs. But when the program expanded, when they began editing embryos of families outside the agreement, I realized it was criminal. I tried to resign. They threatened my family. They said the crown must be protected at any cost." Tears filled her eyes. "I know they'll try to erase evidence. They've already begun. Files are disappearing. Archives are being altered. You have less time than you think." She handed William a USB drive. "This contains every communication I could save. Emails, approvals, meeting logs, including messages from the Queen Consort's office at the time." William frozen. "Camilla's office?" She nodded. And then, voice breaking, she said, "I'm sorry. I didn't know they'd use your children. I didn't know they'd use anyone's children." Oh. That night, William told Catherine everything: the ledger, the signatures, the aide's confession. Catherine's face went pale. She knew. Camilla knew something. Maybe not everything, but enough. William's voice was low, lethal. "She helped authorize the program that altered our children. She may not have chosen them directly, but she knew the program existed. She enabled it." Catherine covered her mouth with shaking hands. Outside, the palace corridors echoed with muffled footsteps, and the faint rustle of staff whispering rumors. They could sense something was unraveling, something enormous. Inside the Wales household, 3 children slept uneasily, unaware that their world, their identity, their history, and their future had just changed forever. And for William and Catherine, there was no turning back. The truth had been unleashed, and the monarchy would never be the same again. The next 24 hours plunged the royal household into the kind of chaos not seen since the death of Diana. But this time, there was no external enemy. The danger was inside. At precisely 7:14 a.m., an anonymous leak hit the inboxes of 5 major UK media outlets. The message was carefully crafted, dripping with innocence and plausible deniability. Certain members of the royal household are being influenced by misinformation regarding past medical procedures. False allegations threaten the stability of the crown. Senior sources confirm that the Princess of Wales is under emotional distress. The leak was designed to do one thing: undermine Catherine's credibility before she could speak. William knew instantly who had orchestrated it: Camilla. He stormed into Clarence's house without warning. Guards stepped back as the heir to the throne walked past them like a storm. Camilla sat at the breakfast table, sipping tea, reading the very articles she had engineered. Her expression was cool, even amused. "William," she greeted, as though nothing was wrong. "You look tired. Trouble sleeping?" He slammed the USB drive onto the table. "Stop," he said. "Stop feeding the press. Stop smearing Catherine. And stop pretending you had no part in the program that violated my children." Camilla's smile faltered. "But only for a second. You misunderstand," she said softly. "I signed a ceremonial approval for a modernization project. I had no idea what was happening at the clinical level." "You signed to authorize genetic manipulation," William spat. "You co-signed for a program that treated heirs as lab products. You greenlit a future you had no right to shape." Camilla's eyes hardened. "You think the crown survives by luck, William? By sentiment? This institution needs strength. The world is changing. Monarchs cannot be fragile anymore." William leaned forward, voice shaking with fury. "You don't get to decide what my children are, or who they become. You don't get to design their humanity." Camilla's mask slipped then, just for a moment, and William saw something underneath. Fear. Fear of being pushed out. Fear of losing her influence. Fear of becoming irrelevant. "Be careful," she whispered. "You are playing a dangerous game. You expose this, you destroy the monarchy." No," William said. "You already did." He walked out, and this time, she didn't try to stop him. That afternoon, Charles summoned William and Catherine to Buckingham Palace. They found him alone in the Lancaster room, crown removed, face buried in his hands. He looked defeated. "I should have stopped them," Charles said, voice cracking. "When they proposed the program, I told them it was madness. But they insisted the monarchy would be safer, stronger. And your grandmother was ill at the time. I was overwhelmed." William sat across from him, expression rigid. "You didn't protect us," he said quietly. "Not me, not Catherine, not the children." Charles lifted his head, tears brimming. "I know, and I will carry that failure to my grave." Catherine's eyes softened. "Your Majesty, this wasn't only your doing. The advisors, the consort's office, the medical board." But Charles cut in, his tone trembling. "The public will not understand. They will not forgive. They will see this as engineered monarchy. Designer heirs. Eugenics. They will demand abdication." A long silence. William finally said the thing Charles feared most. "Maybe abdication is exactly what they'll demand." Charles inhaled sharply, as though stabbed. "You would take the throne? Like this?" "I would take it," William said, "because I must protect my family before I protect the institution." The room fell silent. A shift occurred in that moment, subtle but irreversible. The king understood that the future had tilted away from him, and toward his son. That same evening, while the adults fought their wars, the first wave of media frenzy reached the royal children. Despite the palace's attempt to restrict devices, a classmate sent George a screenshot. "Royal heirs genetically engineered? Leaked documents. Suggest illegal enhancements." He stared at the headline for a full minute, his stomach twisted. At dinner, he didn't speak. Catherine noticed immediately. "George, sweetheart." He shoved his phone across the table, her face drained of color. William closed his eyes. Charlotte burst into tears. "Are they going to hate us? Are they going to say we're fake?" Louis slid off his chair and hugged his sister. "I don't want anyone to change me," he whispered. William felt something inside him fracture. The monarchy's sins were no longer abstract. They were sitting across the dinner table, crying, begging for answers that no parent should ever have to give. Catherine took George's hand. "Listen to me," she said gently. "You are not artificial. You are not engineered. You are not wrong." George swallowed hard. "Then why does the world think we are?" William knelt in front of him, voice steady. Because the world is afraid of what it doesn't understand. But that doesn't define you. What defines you is who you choose to be. George's eyes filled with tears. Charlotte whispered, "But what if they don't want us to be royals anymore?" William hesitated, then told them the truth. "They don't decide that. We do." Late that night, after the children were finally asleep, William's phone buzzed. A message. No sender. Only a video attachment. He pressed play. A grainy clip appeared, recorded in a hidden room at the clinic. A voice spoke. "Subject royal embryos have undergone phase 2 sequencing. The consort circle has approved genetic acceleration for..." The video cut abruptly. Catherine's hand flew to her mouth. "Phase 2? What does that mean?" William didn't answer, because the truth was clear. There was more. More than what the ledger showed. More than what the clinic admitted. More than what the palace hid. Their children were only part one of a bigger plan, and the forces behind it were not done. Not even close. 3 days. That's all it took for the shadows to move. 3 days after William received the anonymous clinic footage, 2 critical whistleblowers vanished. The aide who gave him the USB drive gone. Her flat in Chelsea was found unlocked, her cat unfed, her mobile left on silent mode beside a half-finished cup of tea. CCTV cameras at the building's entrance had been mysteriously disabled. Dr. Helena Frayne, the embryologist who had been listed in the original genome trial documents, missing. Her lab at St. James's Research Institute was scrubbed clean. Her staff were told she was on indefinite leave, but no one had spoken to her in over 72 hours. It was a chilling pattern. Silencing had begun, and the message was clear. If you talk, you vanish. William stood in his private study at Kensington Palace, the USB drive still clutched in his hand. Rage boiled beneath his skin. "They're eliminating the trail," he muttered. Catherine nodded grimly. "They know we're close to making it public." She turned to the window, watching raindrops streak down the glass. "They're going to force our hand." At 11:43 a.m. on a Friday morning, a heavily edited version of the clinic footage William had received appeared online. The voiceover was altered. The key phrase, "The consort circle has approved genetic acceleration," was removed. Instead, the clip ended with an audio glitch and a disclaimer graphic, fabricated by AI source unverifiable. British Genetic Advisory Council. The palace issued a cold, coordinated statement within minutes. No evidence has been presented to support the absurd theory that the royal children were genetically edited. Her Majesty the Queen Consort has never authorized or participated in any experimental procedure. The Prince and Princess of Wales are kindly asked to focus on family unity in these challenging times. The knife was buried in the last line, carefully worded to suggest instability in the Wales household, with just enough ambiguity to shift blame. The media ran with it. Princess Catherine's crack-up? Is the palace splitting in two? Designer babies or royal delusion? But the strategy didn't hold. Because behind the gilded gates of Clarence House, Queen Camilla was spiraling. Her once airtight inner circle was collapsing. 2 of her longtime aides resigned quietly, citing emotional distress. One reporter from The Times alleged that Camilla had thrown a glass at a staffer during a meeting. And then there was the footage never meant to be seen. A private hallway recording, leaked to an anonymous YouTube channel, showed Camilla screaming at a royal physician. "I don't care what they found. Burn the backups, destroy the scans. And if anyone leaks a bloody chromosome map, you'll wish you were never born." The clip went viral in under an hour. Suddenly, the Queen Consort wasn't just implicated, she was exposed. Even loyalists began to whisper. Had she gone too far? Was she trying to erase something only guilt could explain? King Charles, weakened by both the press and personal guilt, attempted to salvage the narrative. He invited Archbishop Justin Welby, 3 senior advisors, and a constitutional scholar to a private roundtable. "If this goes any further," Charles said, voice trembling, "we may lose public confidence not just in the monarchy but in the very idea of hereditary rule." The Archbishop didn't mince words. "Your Majesty, the idea of royal birthright loses all sanctity when engineered. If even a whisper of artificial design proves true, the crown becomes a laboratory product." Charles closed his eyes. The scholar leaned in. "There may come a time very soon when the people no longer see George as a boy born to rule, but a child manufactured to inherit." Silence fell. Everyone in that room understood what that meant. Constitutional collapse. That night, Catherine sat in the nursery beside George's bed. He had cried himself to sleep again. On the floor near his bookcase were discarded news clippings, torn up with fury headlines that questioned his legitimacy, his humanity, his right to be royal. Charlotte and Louis were in their rooms, equally quiet, equally shaken. William stood in the doorway. He had made up his mind. "We release the unedited footage," he said. Catherine turned, tears in her eyes. "If we do that, the monarchy may fall." "I know," William whispered, "but so will the people who tried to play God with our children." Catherine nodded. Then slowly, she stood. "I'm with you, but if we do this, it's war." Just before dawn, the palace communications director received a digital packet. No subject line, no traceable source. Inside, the full, uncut video from the lab. Voice clear, timestamp visible, approval from the consort's circle, and a message. "Release this before the prince does, or lose what's left of the crown." The royal family had 48 hours to respond. The file was leaked at 7:01 a.m. on a Monday. The anonymous account simply posted one line: "The truth will out even in a palace built on silence." And then, the video began to spread. Across phones in London's too. On smart TV in Paris Café. In lecture halls in Delhi. In living rooms from Toronto to Tokyo. The uncut footage. A senior clinician detailing the genetic sequencing of the royal embryos. A list of authorizing signatures. The watermark from the Royal Biomedical Enhancement Program, previously thought to be a ceremonial grant initiative. Subject Royal. Modifications approved for accelerated cognitive potential, height percentile optimization, immunity dampening against genetic disorders. Request signed by the Office of the Queen Consort. The world went quiet, then exploded. By noon, number designer hairs trended globally. Protests erupted outside Buckingham Palace, Clarence House, and across key Commonwealth capitals. Banners read, "We believed in bloodlines, not blueprints. The future shouldn't be gene-coded. If they're engineered, are they still royal?" At 2:43 p.m., Queen Camilla was evacuated from Clarence House under heavy guard, her face pale behind the armored SUV glass. An egg hit the vehicle's window as it pulled away. One protester shouted, "This isn't monarchy, it's monarchy modified." Camilla did not respond. She didn't appear in public again that week. That same evening, Catherine stood in the green drawing room at Windsor Castle, facing a wall of cameras. Her eyes were calm, not defiant but resolute. William stood beside her, hand lightly on her back. The children, by her choice, were absent. The address began, "My name is Catherine. I am the Princess of Wales, and I speak to you not as royalty, but as a mother." "Oh?" The room fell into complete silence across households, embassies, and even inside Parliament chambers. Over a decade ago, during our journey to become parents, medical procedures were conducted on our embryos, without our full understanding. These procedures altered the genetic makeup of our children. We did not consent to enhancement. We believed we were undergoing traditional IVF. What happened was a betrayal of science, ethics, and faith. And for that, I take responsibility for not finding the truth sooner. She paused, her voice softening. "To my children, George, Charlotte, and Louis, you are not your DNA. You are your choices, your hearts, your courage. You are more royal in spirit than any genome could dictate." A murmur ran through the press gallery. No statement from a royal had ever sounded so human. "To the people of the United Kingdom, the Commonwealth, and the world, we will no longer serve a monarchy built on secrecy. If the crown survives, it must be redefined." The next morning, Parliament called an emergency session. Polls showed over 68% of Britons believed Charles should abdicate. At noon, Prime Minister Harris emerged from 10 Downing with a message. His Majesty the King has agreed to suspend his public duties until further notice. A Regency Council, chaired by Prince William, will assume ceremonial and administrative responsibilities. Though not a formal abdication, the shift was seismic. Camilla was quietly moved to Balmoral for health reasons. Her name was no longer referenced in palace updates. Her image was removed from royal websites within 48 hours. 3 days later, a photo was released. Lady Susan Hussey, now 85, stood beside Catherine at a small candlelight vigil for Queen Elizabeth in Windsor's chapel. Catherine wore no crown, no sash, no formal jewelry, only a small locket with her children's initials. Lady Susan lit the final candle, then whispered, picked up faintly by the nearby camera mic, "You restored her crown, in a way no coronation could." Weeks later, the Crown released a declaration. Genetic neutrality will be enshrined as a constitutional principle of succession. No royal heir shall benefit from artificial advantage, scientific manipulation, or unconsented medical interference. It was called the Catherine Clause. And from that day on, the future of the monarchy no longer belonged to science. It belonged finally to choice,